The world was shocked when two bright, young women from the Netherlands, Kremers and Lisanne Freun, disappeared while hiking in Panama. Their story, one of adventure gone horribly wrong, continues to captivate people to this day. Was it an accident, a crime, or something else entirely? This is the story of the disappearance of Kremers and Lisanne Freun, a case that remains a mystery to this very day. On March 15, 2014, two young Dutch women, Kremers and Lisanne Freun, arrived in Panama for what was supposed to be the adventure of a lifetime. They had just graduated from university and decided to spend 6 weeks exploring the beautiful country. They planned to learn Spanish, volunteer at a kindergarten, and immerse themselves in the culture. The two began their trip in Bocas del Toro, a beautiful beach town where they relaxed and took Spanish lessons. Everything seemed perfect. They were carefree, full of excitement, and looking forward to their time in Panama. However, as their trip progressed, things took an unexpected turn. On April 1st, 2014, Chris and Lisanne arrived in Bocas, a small mountain town known for its hiking trails and lush jungles. They planned to stay with a local family and volunteer at a kindergarten. But due to a misunderstanding, the school was not ready for them yet. With extra time on their hands, they decided to go hiking on the famous El Pianista Trail. The El Pianista Trail is a popular hiking route that takes about 2 to 3 hours to complete. It offers breathtaking views of the jungle and a panoramic look at the surrounding area. On that sunny day, Chris and Lisanne set out on their hike, seemingly in high spirits. They were prepared, wearing light clothing and hiking boots, carrying a single backpack with supplies. As they trekked along the trail, they took pictures along the way, their smiles and carefree faces showing no signs of trouble. Around 1 p.m., they reached the summit, where they took a few more pictures before continuing on. But this is where things began to take a mysterious turn. Instead of turning back, they ventured past the summit, heading toward an unmarked trail known as the Serpent Trail. Why did they continue down that unfamiliar and dangerous path? No one knows. What happened next is still unclear. The two young women never returned from their hike that day, and soon they were reported missing. The day after Chris and Lisanne missed a scheduled meeting with a local guide, their host family grew concerned. Their absence was strange, and soon the search for the two women began, but no one could find them. The first search was unofficial. Friends and locals searched the trails, but found no sign of the two women. It wasn't until April 3rd, 2 days after they disappeared, that the official search began. The authorities deployed helicopters, dogs, and search teams to cover all hiking routes in the area. But despite these efforts, there were no clues to explain where the girls had gone or what had happened to them. As the days passed, the situation grew more urgent. Chris and Lisanne hadn't packed enough food or water to survive for long in the jungle, and their families arrived in Panama to assist with the search. On June 14th, 10 weeks after the girls disappeared, a local woman discovered a blue backpack belonging to Lisanne by the riverbank. Inside the backpack, authorities found disturbing items: 2 pairs of sunglasses, a water bottle, Lisanne's passport, some cash, and 2 mobile phones. The phones had been used, but not in a way that made sense. Both phones had made several attempts to call emergency services, dialing the emergency number 112. But the calls didn't go through due to lack of signal. Why did they attempt to call so many times without success? What were they trying to tell someone? The mystery deepens. Among the items in the backpack was a digital camera that belonged to Lisanne. The camera contained photos that were taken during their hike. The first pictures showed the girls smiling at the summit, looking happy and carefree. But the later photos, taken after they reached the Continental Divide, were unsettling. Around 1 a.m. on April 8th, there were 90 photos taken in total darkness, deep in the jungle. Some pictures were blurry, showing vague shapes and shadows. One image showed Chris's head, with her hair looking unusually red, while another picture seemed to show a twig with red plastic bags. The remaining photos were mostly dark, with no clear indication of what was happening. The most disturbing part is that these photos were taken in the middle of the night, when the girls should have been well away from the jungle. Months later, more unsettling discoveries were made. In August 2014, a boot was found, and within it, parts of a foot. Later, more remains were uncovered, bones that would eventually be confirmed as belonging to both Chris and Lisanne. DNA testing confirmed their identities, but the discovery only raised more questions. Forensic researchers found that Lisanne's bones still had some skin attached, while Chris's bones were nearly bleached. The cause of death remained unknown. What had happened to them? Were they victims of an accident, or was foul play involved? As time passed, investigators began to criticize the handling of the case. Many believed that the authorities had missed key opportunities to gather evidence. The search efforts were slow and disorganized, and there were many flaws in the way the investigation was conducted. For example, local guides had begun searching the trails before Sinoproc, the official search team, even began, but they were told to stop their efforts. Furthermore, when the remains were found, the authorities didn't follow proper investigative procedures. There were no soil samples taken, and no systematic search grid was established. This led many to believe that critical evidence may have been overlooked, and the true cause of the girls' disappearance remained elusive. The disappearance of Kremers and Lisanne Freun remains one of the most perplexing true crime cases in recent memory. Despite the discovery of their backpack, phones, and remains, no one knows for sure what happened to them in the jungle that day. Was it an accident, a wild animal attack, or something more sinister? Theories abound, but the truth may never be fully known. What is certain is that Chris and Lisanne's families will never have the closure they need. Their mysterious disappearance continues to haunt those who followed the case, and the questions remain unanswered. The disappearance of Chris Kremers and Lisanne Freun will likely remain a mystery, with their tragic story echoing through the jungle trails of Panama for years to come.